Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are having a most blessed day today. It's time for your daily Bible verse. And today we're going to read Acts chapter 9, verses 1 through 6. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." So, what's going on here? This is Saul, who later became Paul. Became an apostle who wrote much of the New Testament. But this is at the time he was one who persecuted the church of Christ. He persecuted Christians. He jailed them, murdered them. He was a legalistic Pharisee. He gives his testimony later on. And what's going on here, he's breathing out these murderous threats against the disciples naturally. And he's going to the high priest and asks him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus naturally. This was on the road to Damascus that this all happened. So that if he found any there who belonged to the way, meaning those who followed Christ, men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. Either he imprisoned them or murdered them. And what's going on now is he's going there, he's getting closer to Damascus, he's walking around, but then this bright light flashes around him, and then Jesus appears to him. He's like, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" And he's like, "Who are you, Lord?" And he's like, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." To persecute the church, to persecute Christians, is to persecute Christ. And he's like, "You are persecuting me." And then he's like, "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." And we see later on, and we'll read these verses, he goes to a guy by Ananias who he saw in a vision, baptizing him and everything else. And not long after, he became one of the apostles, began working with them. They all feared him at first, but then Barnabas took him up. Him and Barnabas were close at first till they had a quarrel later on. But this is interesting. Paul was a murderer initially and got saved. That just shows that anybody, no matter what your past is, you can be saved by the Lord, and the Lord can and will use you if you so allow him to. Your past is in your past. It doesn't matter what you've done. It's all behind you. You can't change your past, but you can change your future. And that's what happened here with Apostle Paul on the road to Damascus when Christ appeared to him. And, this is Apostle Paul, who was once a murderer, jailing and murdering Christians, who then later on wrote 13 books of the New Testament. 14 if you're like me and believe he wrote Hebrews, but nonetheless, he wrote much of the New Testament. So, when anybody says, that person could never be used by Christ, they could never be saved, don't believe those lies. They sure could. Because if Paul could, anybody could. That is, if they don't have a hardened heart. You all have a great and blessed day. Jesus loves you. I do too, but not like he does, and I'll talk to you soon.